23 unwritten rules according to Swedish people what you should never ever do when you're in Sweden. No one wants to be the type of person who is coming to a new country and pissing everyone off by breaking a bunch of unwritten rules you had no idea about. Then I figured it out that it's going to be some people out there who are wondering what they should definitely avoid doing when they come to Sweden next time. Because there are so many no-nos in Sweden. Some of them are more serious than the others, and some of them definitely do not exist in your home country. So today, let's dive in, guys. Number one, and you better remove your Norwegian hat right away, just not to make them jealous. I'm joking. And next week I'm in Norway again. You know exactly what to do. First of all, please like this video. Let's make the algorithm happy and subscribe to this channel to see again what's new happening in Norway. Did you smash that like button? Tusen tack. Let's dive in. Number one, and super important, never ever brag about yourself when you're in Sweden. 100% exactly the same as in Norway. Janteloven is following us all around the Nordic countries. You may be the best thing on earth and also the coolest achiever all over the world. But the Swedes have inherent distaste for anyone who is trying to brag about themselves or their accomplishments. That said, a classy humble brag will usually fit just perfectly into passive-aggressive Swedish way. Number two, and never take the last piece of a sweet treat. Well, here Norwegians don't really care about it much, but hello my French friends, if any of you watching this channel. Swedish people generally avoid taking the last piece of a sweet treat, like a cake, chocolate box and so on, as it can be seen as selfish, rude or just inconsiderate thing to do to others. That said, somebody always gets to take that last piece at the end, but only after offering it around for several minutes to everyone and their grandma. Definitely super French way. Number three, and don't ignore personal space when you're in Sweden. And hello again, exactly the same as in Norway. The Swedish culture naturally is very distant, with Swedes generally keeping their distance to each other out of respect to each other's personal space. And believe me guys, pandemic has nothing to do with this. It was exactly the same even before. Yeah, check this out. Number four, and never open a can of Surströmming inside ever. I'm sure you've already seen a number of videos on YouTube where people opening a can of Surströmming and buffing their brains out due to the extremely potted and drunk smell that will immediately spread for 100 yards instantly. The lesson here is never ever under any circumstances open that can of surprisingly delicious fermented herring inside of your house. It will require industrial grade sanitation efforts afterward. You might as well throw away everything from that room unless you want to keep smelling it for years to come. Number five, never ever enter somebody's home with your shoes on. It's a non-negotiable rule for 99% of Swedish houses that you must take your shoes off when you enter somebody's house. It is rooted to very practical reasons, as it would be extremely messy if everyone would drag in a mix of mud and snow together with them after a trip outside wintertime. Number six, and don't act overly chivalrous. Swedish women, the same as Norwegians, might get offended if you run around the car just to open a door for them, or any other similar act of chivalry, as a gender equality is a massive thing in both Swedish and Norwegian culture. Smaller acts of general kindness are absolutely fine, such as holding the door open. For example, going with the trend of other Nordic countries in recent years, the Swedish Social Democratic Party elected the first ever female Prime Minister in 2021. Number seven, and don't evangelise. And let's go somewhere a little bit warmer. It's getting super cold. Sweden is one of the most secular countries in the world. Trying to push your religious belief onto someone in Sweden will usually result into swift ending of that conversation. And also you will have a very little chance of hanging out with that Swede ever again. To clarify, Swedes are not totally against of talking about any religion, but they strongly dislike when somebody is trying to shove it down their throat. Never stand on the left, the escalator. This is exactly the the same principle we are applying in London. Okay guys, I'm trying my best to film as much as I can outside from the streets of Stockholm, but it's extremely cold. It's like -5 and my camera literally doesn't work. It doesn't want to film. So at some point, unfortunately, I will have to take you indoors. But good news is I will be back to Sweden closer to summer when it's a little bit warmer, and I definitely show you more content from Sweden and from other Nordic countries. Not to miss it out, you know exactly what to do. Please subscribe to this channel and also don't forget to smash that like button. Let's make the algorithm happy and me even happier. Did you smash it? Thank you so much. Tusen tack. And it's not just my camera which doesn't work. I cannot feel my fingers and I cannot feel my nose and my lips are getting all numb. So guys, I'm sorry, I did my best, but I have to take you indoors. Let's go. Let's get something warmer. Number 9 and much warmer. Number 9, never ostracize your kids in public. In Sweden, Swedes can react quite strongly to anyone scolding or punishing their kids in public and will not hesitate to come up and give you surprisingly vocal, by Swedish standards, lecture in parenting. Number 10, and do not forget to pay your share of the tap when you're in Sweden. This will never happen in Norway because there is no tap culture here. In Norway, you pay your own drink and be happy. After a long week, Swedes love going out to the bar with their colleagues to blow some steam off, also called AWs, after work. I feel like I really got a little bit sick after filming all day on a cold in Sweden. Thank you so much, Stockholm. Yeah, you tried to kill Norwegian. Well done. Fine, I'll try not to and cough all the time. But my nose is unpleasantly blocked. Ew. If you, for any reason, would miss to pay for your share of any shared bill, that might be accrued on your table as a whole, and you will never hear or feel the end of it from your Swedish colleagues. Number 11, and don't talk politics with strangers. This may not be a unique thing just for Sweden, but it is considered to be very rude and provocative to bring up politics and discuss it with people you've just met over here. It is always a recipe for disaster, especially in modern times when a big chunk of Swedish population vote for far right or far left parties. Number 12, and equally applicable for all Nordic countries, never ever go outside without appropriate clothing if you don't want to get sick like me. It's probably the funniest thing I've heard in Stockholm. You know what Swedish saying? They saying that there is a Swedish saying that there is no such thing as bad weather, only an appropriate clothing. What?
What?
If it's not the first time you see me, you perfectly know that it's Norwegian saying. Norwegian. Anyway, in every single Nordic country, walking out on a cold winter day without appropriate clothing will result in expressions of disbeliefs of all Nordic people. And some might even get upset and urge you to reconsider your lax stance on clothing. Number 13, and probably my favorite one, never ever act chauvinistic towards women. Again, totally applicable for both Norway and Sweden. While Nordic women might be renowned for their looks in certain parts of the world, there is nothing that will cool their interest in you as a whistle or a catch-all. Number 14, and never ever cut people in the line. Swedes, same as British, have a weirdly strong belief in queuing for stuff. And even stronger belief in the sanctity of the line order. Cutting in line might be the rudest thing you can possibly do in Sweden and will produce a very strong reaction from those you have just cut in front of. Number 15, and never ever ask how much someone is making in Sweden. Totally different from Norway. It's not like we really don't care, we just know. Yes, we know for sure. As your income in Norway is openly published online. So what's the point to ask if you can just go online and check? And we love discussing prices on anything and everything in Norway. After an hour conversation of discussing how much we spent on dentist last month and how much we are going to spend on that vacation this summer, we suddenly remember that we're humble. So we will add, and it's bloody expensive. That's what Norwegians do. The majority of Swedish people will be absolutely horrified if you ask them directly how much they're making. It's just not something you would do in Sweden, unless it is between Swedish co-workers, in which case you should definitely do it, as it promotes more equal pay. Number 16, and never ever be late or too early to an appointment. Few things that will rile Swedish people up more than someone who is inherently late to everything. Trust me, I have a tendency sometimes to be that guy, especially in Italy or in France, and have not heard the end of it among certain circles, predominantly in Nordic countries. And this goes as well for showing up earlier too. I've literally heard some stories that some people in Sweden on their way to a dinner party stopping their car on the side of the road for like 10 or 15 minutes just to avoid to be too early for that party. Number 17, and totally applicable and very much applicable for both Norway and Sweden. And never ever sit next to anyone on the bus or any sort of public transport if there is a room elsewhere. I bet you took this rule from your neighbors, guys. Swedish people, the same as Norwegians, are not very open to conversation and interactions with strangers, which I personally find really weird considering how talkative and active Swedish people are during their weekend parties. But sitting down next to someone on the bus or on the train when there are plenty of private sitting options available can be seen as a borderline act of aggression. That said, the worst reaction you are likely to see is a long trip of absolute silence, or perhaps some very awkward small talk if you're lucky. Number 18, and don't be a bigot. Okay, this might be an actual rule in some cases, and those criminal instead of an unwritten one. But even seemingly innocent remarks that comes even remotely close to bigotry or hate speech will in most Swedish circles be met with disgust and social ostracization. Number 19, do not expect local business to be open in July. For sure, July might be one of the busiest travel months of the year in Sweden, so it might seem weird for the place to be closed when it might attract tons of tourists. The thing is, most of Swedish people tend to have time off and travel themselves during the month of July, including Swedish business owners. So don't be surprised if you are met with closed for summer sign on the door of a local business you're trying to visit in July. And just don't freak out, as in larger cities, national as well as international business chains tend to be open during July. Number 20, don't be loud in public settings. And again, I can see a clear parallel with French culture. When Swedish people are asked to discuss American tourists, one of the most common remarks they usually tell you will be, "They're so loud." This thing is applicable to British tourists as well. I told this to many of my friends already. When you're in Sweden or in France, don't be surprised if you are met with scowls and muttering if you shout, "Speak too loud," usual thing, or speak with no consideration to your surroundings. Unless you're drunk on the weekend, then it's going to be absolutely fine according to binge drinking Swedish people. Number 21, and don't forget to small talk about the weather. Swedish people are not really good at small talk in general, but there is one common topic that unites all Nordic people, no matter if they're friends or strangers, is to talk about the weather. Number 22, absolutely identical for both Sweden and Norway. Do not show off your wealth. As a part of our janteloven culture, it is frowned upon and borderline rule to show off how rich or powerful you are in Sweden or Norway. It has even resulted in affluent figures ranging from prime minister to CEOs living fairly modest public life without all these flashy items and lifestyle that you can usually see in other countries. Last but far not least, number 23, and never ever forget to say thank you. Tack. Swedish people definitely go overboard with thanking people in general, and it doesn't even have to be for anything special. If I had $1 for every time somebody said to me "Tack för senast," which means thank you for the last time we hang out, whenever we've been for a dinner or for fika with someone, I would likely have the GNP of Sweden on my bank account. While you definitely don't need to take it as far as Swedish people do, it's imperative to say thank you in most situations you feel could warrant it. When someone holds a door for you, when someone serves you coffee, etc. Otherwise, some Swedish people might think that you're a bit rude or coming from a neighboring country. Tusen tack. Oh, thank you so much for watching this one too, guys. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think. Which never do fact was the most fascinating from you? Please share your opinion down there. And for now, stay safe, be happy. And as our tradition goes, I will see you next week, guys. Only God knows from which country, but I'll see you soon. Love you so much, guys. Love you. Bye. Bye.